Hello, everyone. Thank you all for joining us for the closing keynote of the NAMLE 2025 conference. We made it, and what a weekend. For those who don't know me, I am Danelle Probst, the interim director, executive director of NAMLE. I hope you have all enjoyed the sessions, networking, engagement, and have found some inspiration and hopefully a little bit of energy along the way. I'd love for everyone to take a quick moment and share a highlight from the weekend or give a shout out to a favorite session or speaker, a new strategy you learned. What were your favorite parts, if you're even able to choose? This community is obviously filled with brilliant, creative educators, and we are so grateful you all chose to share your knowledge with the community and help build a more media literate world. As the conference comes to a close, please do not forget about all the ways you can continue to connect with the community, including NAMLE's free membership, which affords you access to NAMLE's Community Hub. This is a private members-only space, NAMLE launched a little over a year ago. We hope you'll consider posting or joining in the conversations there, as well as sharing resources or opportunities to continue the momentum of the conference long after it is over. For those of you who are new to our community, NAMLE also holds several membership meetings each year. These are a mix of conversations, presentations, resource sharing, and really just provides a space for members to network and learn about relevant topics and trends in media literacy education. Our next membership meeting will be August 5th at 7 p.m. Eastern, so please mark your calendars. Also, mark your calendars for October 27th through 31st, when we'll celebrate the 11th annual U.S. Media Literacy Week, which NAMLE hosts as part of UNESCO's Global Media and Information Literacy Week. Now is the perfect time to start thinking about how you might set aside time in your classroom or community to implement the things you learned this weekend. It's completely free to participate, so we hope you will plan to join us and register to participate. Last year, as part of Media Literacy Week, we also curated a resource showcase, which is a group of classroom-ready resources for middle and upper grades that demonstrate how media literacy can be meaningfully embedded across academic subjects. Based on feedback from last year's inaugural event, this year's event will feature selected resources on-demand demos instead of live sessions to allow more flexibility for accessing the resources throughout Media Literacy Week and beyond. Please consider submitting a resource, a lesson, or an activity you feel could be useful in supporting other educators and implementing media literacy education in their classrooms. You can find information and a submission link on the Media Literacy Week website or by using the QR code that is on your screen. I've been inspired by so many There we go. I've been inspired by so many of the conversations I have witnessed this weekend. We know there's an enormous amount of progress happening in our field, but we also know there is a lot of work that still needs to be done. At NAMLE, we've been thinking deeply about how we can best support our community, how we can play a more impactful role in scaling practice, and ways to bring more educators from various subject areas into our community. Stay tuned as we continue to look for opportunities to engage with partners, expand our community, and connect the dots to make media literacy education a reality for all students. Now let's get back to our regularly scheduled programming. I am going to bring back the conference co-chairs, Bill Selleck and Liz Ortiz, to introduce our final keynote. Hi.
Awesome. Thank you. Hello. Thanks, Donnell. How are you?
Awesome.
Awesome. So we're going to switch gears and get our final keynote started. To end our keynote series on connection, we thought it only fitting to have young people share how they're using storytelling to deepen their connection with their communities and advocate for the future they want to see.
I love it. We are going to hear from Clarabelle and Simona, two of the student writers at 826 Valencia, on how writing and publishing their work has helped them develop their unique voices and leadership skills. Rooted in media literacy and youth empowerment, this conversation will explore how storytelling becomes a platform for self-expression, community engagement, and meaningful connection inside and outside the classroom. Now, without further ado, please join me in welcoming Fran Sterling, Director of Education at Life Stories, to kick off this conversation. Fran, welcome.
Oh, thank you so much. It's what a few days this has been. I've learned so much. I've enjoyed the panels and it's clear in chat how many different enriching things people have gone to. So thank you so much for being here for our final keynote. As was mentioned, I'm Director of Education for Life Stories, which is a nonprofit documentary media and educational organization, as well as Director of Blue Shift Education. And I'm really deeply committed to the power of storytelling to elevate voice, enrich and inform, and really make the world a better place. I'm coming from you today from Denver, Colorado, where I live. I'm a mother of three. I have been involved with NAMLE in different capacities over the years, and I am just so delighted to be part of the conversation with these wonderful writers from 826 Valencia. I tutored with 826 Valencia back in the day when I lived in the Bay Area, but recently have worked with their 826 digital program with our documentary series, The Thread, and have just so appreciated the work that they do and the care that they do. And I know that you will just so enjoy hearing people from the organization. So I am going to bring on Presidia and introduce her, and who's going to introduce the students. So I think Presidia is going to come on in a minute here, and I'll introduce her. There she is. Hello.
Hi, friend.
Nice to see you. And let me do a quick introduction to you, and then I'll let you transition with the students, and then we'll get the conversation going. So Presidio is the program manager for youth leadership programs at 826 Valencia. And she leads 4 of the cohorts of youth leaders across the whole San Francisco Bay Area with vision and deep belief in the power of youth voice, which we all support. Originally from Oakland, California, she also spearheads the Black Students Initiative, an intentional effort to create affirming, creative spaces where young Black leaders can thrive. An artist and activist herself, Presidio is driven by a commitment to equity and justice. She believes writing is a powerful tool for transformation, giving young people the language and courage to shape the world they want to live in. And I can't think of a better person to introduce the students that you work with. So please provide a little bit of background. Maybe some people know 826, some people don't. If you could provide a little bit of introduction to 826 Valencia, we'd so appreciate that, and then get into the conversation.
Yes, so thank you so much, Fran, and thank you, namely, for having me and my awesome youth leaders today. So, 826 Valencia is a nonprofit writing organization dedicated to uplifting youth voices. And so we are in schools, we're in writing centers across San Francisco, really supporting the students and amplifying their voices. So in particular, the Youth Leadership Advisory Board works on writing projects. They get to tutor elementary school students, and they also do different events around the city to work on their career readiness. And we do have different projects that supports college readiness as well. So I love 826. I've been working there for about it's going to be 8 years this coming August, and it's a big, huge family, and we're continually growing, and we're so grateful to have Namely as a partner in this work.
That's great to hear. And 826 Valencia is not just in the Bay Area, is that correct? You
That
have
is correct. We have 3 writing centers, and we're in probably over 15 schools in San Francisco, but we have 10 different cities across the United States that we have 826 Valencias at. And internationally, we inspire a few
oh, that's fantastic.
different organizations, and we just want to continue to make sure young people have spaces to really thrive and be confident in their voices.
Great. Yeah, so if folks don't know about the work they do, maybe look up in your city. There might be a chapter there, and you can get connected that way. So that's great. Thank you for that introduction.
Thank you.
Sure.
And I should introduce our wonderful, amazing leaders, right?
Please.
Let me do that. So again, thank you so much. My name is Presidia Dangerfield, and I have the honor of working with over 150 incredible young people through the Youth Leadership Advisory Board at 826 Valencia. Among all of these brilliant youth, Simona Gaim, who's coming up very soon, and Clarabelle Kamal stand out as exceptional leaders and a true representation of power, passion, and purpose as 826 Valencia's youth. Simona is someone who brings light into the room when she walks into it. She's incredibly optimistic, fiercely driven, and a true energy shifter. She knows how to lift others up and move the room forward with grace and joy. Now, Clarabelle is a thoughtful force. She is deeply inquisitive, always eager to learn more, motivated in everything that she does, and most impressively, she is present and accountable. She is never late. If something's happening, she will let you know. She's very, very communicative, someone who shows up with intention, energy every single time. Together, they embody, Clarabelle and Simona, the energy of the youth leadership program. They not only they're not only fierce leaders, but they also are present human beings that we want to honor in their humanity, right? So it is my absolute honor to introduce them as today's students' keynote speakers. Please join me in welcoming Simona and Clarabelle. Thank you. You guys have a great interview.
Thanks so much, Presidia. Thanks for
Thank
that
you,
wonderful
Presidia.
introduction. And Simona and Clarabelle, welcome to the NAMLE keynote, and what an honor it is to have you both here, and thank you for sharing your time and your voices today. Before we get into a few questions, those of you who are in our community today, if you have questions, we're going to leave some time at the very end, and we ask you to put your questions in the Q&A and not in the chat. The chat can get really active and people are very animated, but we want to make sure that the questions, we don't overlook them in the conversation that happens in chat. So please put them in the Q&A at the bottom of the screen. You can see the Q&A thing, and we'll make sure that we attend to them, and we're going to make sure that we have time at the end. So we're going to get started here in this conversation. And because, you know, some people might know about 826 Valencia, some people might not. I would love for both of you to share what you love most about 826 Valencia. And Simona, let's start with you for this one, and Clarabelle can answer as well. So please, what do you love most?
Sure. Okay. So I would say that I love 826 Valencia's commitment to their community. I think that, I mean, I guess I'm newer to 826 Valencia. I only joined last year, January, but even though I'm pretty recent, or I'm pretty new to the community, they've welcomed me with open arms. They've given me so many opportunities and just different ways to get involved with the community, with the San Francisco community in general. And so I love that 826 Valencia was never just like a summer program or an after school program for me, but like Presidia said, it really is a family. And once you join the program, there's just so many resources to support the students, to support the mentors. There's always space for you to write, space for you to learn. So it's just a great community that really cares about its members.
Yeah, it sounds like that. Clarabelle, how about yourself?
Yeah, my answer is pretty similar. I'd
Okay.
say that it's the community, I feel like, at 826. The mentors and the leaders there, they don't really feel as much as teachers. They're very good at guidance, but they're also very understanding, and I feel like they talk to you like you're on the same level. They're really trying to motivate you to write more or to get yourself put out there. Like an example is for this whole thing, Presidia handed me a flyer for this event. She was like, "You're gonna be there." I was like, "Okay." But yeah, they just really push you to just be more. And I just love that about 826. It's like Simona said, so welcoming. And I just really like that about the program.
That's great to hear. Clarabelle, do you have a favorite memory of 826 Valencia that you'd like to share?
Yeah, I do actually. Even though it's a writing program, it's not that related to writing, but it was during the 826 program where we had this special thing you had to sign up for on the weekend where they had I'm not really sure how it happened. It was like a partnership with a tree climbing program at John McLaurin Park, I think, where they would like give you like harnesses and you would literally climb in the trees. It was so bizarre, but it was really fun. It was kind of like a trust exercise kind of thing,
Uh-huh.
so that everyone in the program, or at least in my group in YLab, could get more comfortable with each other because it's kind of hard to be like shy when you're like trying to like go across like a tree. You know, it's like so scary.
Your
But it was,
life.
yeah, scared for my life. But it was definitely one of my favorite memories because it really reminded me like it brought us together as a community, you know,
Mm,
like it really made me realize we're all like human. Even like some of the shyer people, they were really like getting out there. But yeah, it was such a fun activity. And
good.
it didn't really feel so much like a job, you know, or like just a program. It really did feel more like a community. So yeah, one of my favorite memories.
That's great to hear. It sounds like it was a very accepting and warm place. And I think that's essential when we're talking about not just writing, but finding voice and self-expression. And maybe Simone, I'll turn that same question to you. I mean, do you have a favorite memory about your work so far, even though you said you're not that new, a year and a half is a pretty long time at 826 Valencia, but is there a favorite memory that you think speaks to the work that you've had with them?
Yeah, I think Presidia, my program leader, she's introduced me to so many different opportunities through 826 Valencia. And one of them just a few months ago was it was an event that we had partnered with SF Jazz. And during the event, they welcomed lots of student readers from the Bay Area. And they brought them over to perform their poetry with musical accompaniment in the background. And so I was reading out one of my poems with a lot of jazz artists performing in the background. And I thought it was just so amazing to see like two different art forms merging and how much more fulfilling it made my poem. And I think that was one of my favorite memories from 826 Valencia.
Oh, wish I could have been there. That sounds really wonderful. And Clarabelle, you mentioned in your favorite memory something about Y Lab. Now, I don't know what Y Lab is. Is that a leadership part of 826 Valencia, or what is that?
Oh yeah. YLab, it's one of the many programs in 826 Valencia.
Okay.
It's I'm not gonna explain it that well because I joined late, so I wasn't really there when they explained it.
Okay.
But yeah, it's one of the programs. It's for leadership and for young writers to like get them more out there.
Okay.
So
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Are you both part of Y Lab? Simona, you as well?
Yes, I'm part of YLab as well.
Okay. So it sounds like there's different aspects of the writing program that you can be involved with, YLab being one of them. Am I hearing that right in terms of how you involve yourself with the poetry? Was the poetry part of YLab, or was that something different?
Yes. So for YLab, there are two different components where once a week the student leaders are being taught in creative writing lessons. And so that's where I was able to write my poem, bring it together. I received advice from our mentors. I edit it then, and then I perform my poem at different opportunities they provide for us. The second component of the program is when we're mentors and we tutor elementary and middle school students, so there's just that like two-way thing where we're being taught, but we're also using our knowledge to teach other students.
Wow, wow, that's really impressive in that way. And um, I also understand that 826 Valencia has a question, a connection between like civic engagement and storytelling, and how you're involved in the community, both in like presenting your poetry, but also in other ways of being civically engaged and changing the world in that way. Um, I, I I I read a little bit, Clarabelle, that you've been involved in media and video games. Is that right? In terms of your civic engagement, you want to share a little bit about how that works with 826 Valencia's work?
Yeah. So the reason they brought it up was because yeah, 826 does get involved with a lot of civic engagement. One of the examples is they paired up with KQED. For us, it was like a challenge. It was for us to write basically an essay, a long piece of writing about a problem that we would like to change in the world. And there was a lot of everyone wrote different things. It was all like very inspiring because everyone was like, I'm gonna write this, and they did it. And one of the things I wrote, I was actually originally going to just do something easy because I was just so tired from school. I was like, I don't really know. But then my mom was like, no, how about you write about something, that you thought of. Like, didn't you tell me about that thing about video games a while ago? And I forgot about it. I was like, oh, you're right. So I wrote about it was kind of like how representation in video games compares with people, not only with like how they present like women in video games, but also how in a lot of video games where you can customize your character, there's not a lot of options for like black hairstyles or like even skin tones. And I just like wanted to write more about it. So that's what I wrote for my KQED challenge.
And for those who aren't Bay Area, who don't live in the Bay Area, KQED is the public television station there. Is that right? In the Bay Area, so KQED. We're going to hear a little bit more about KQED and towards the end of our conversation, where Clarabelle and Simona are going to share some writings that were part of that program as well. Simona, were you also sort of part of the civic engagement work that 826 Valencia does?
Yes, I also took part in the KQED challenge. I thought it was very fun for me, or I think the challenge was called Call to Action. And so I decided to write about homelessness, specifically in San Francisco, since it's so prominent, but I guess everywhere in the US. And the goal was to think of solutions to the problem, like real solutions. And so I think my whole concept was mainly about communication and how solutions start when you speak with, well, within any situation, but in this case, solution starts when you speak with the unhoused like people and try to understand their story before making assumptions or making temporary changes that won't help them in the long term. And so I think tying it back to civic engagement, 826 Valencia really just encourages students to use their writing for the good of the world. So we're using it to try to make change in our communities.
Okay. I have to ask you both real quick here. Did you consider yourself a writer before you joined 826 Valencia? Maybe
Um,
Simone or Clarabelle, you can start. I mean, did you see yourself
uh,
as a writer?
I mean, I did consider myself a writer, I'd say, just because I love to write beforehand since I was like 9. But I think after I joined 826, I considered myself more like an author, just because they got a chance to have one of my works published. So that really made me feel like, oh my God, not only a writer, I'm also an author. I'm like published. So I already was like pretty like confident. I'm like, yeah, I write, but I consider it a hobby. But 826 definitely helped boost my confidence a bit with that.
Mm. How about you, Simona? Did you consider yourself a writer?
Well, I love this question because I really didn't consider myself a writer. I mean, I didn't really enjoy English class. I thought writing was just a hassle. It was just so stressful for me for some reason because I never wanted to submit a piece of work without it being absolutely perfect. And so when I got to 826 Valencia, I saw all the writing prompts and like they made me feel such a sense of freedom because I could write about what was meaningful to me. And I mean, like we did have prompts, except I don't know, here we were really just writing about what we thought was important. And I love that about 826 Valencia.
It's amazing how that has evolved with both of you in different ways. Even, I mean, as a writer to an author, and you know, Simona, feeling very just a whole different confidence in your voice in writing. So thank you for sharing that. Um, do you think that, I mean, with that in mind, do you think 826 Valencia has given you a different platform or space to share your perspective in ways that you hadn't thought of before?
Well, yeah, I can start, but I think definitely yes, because I mean, especially in larger crowds, I tend to be very quiet and I don't really like speaking out loud that much. And so with 826 Valencia, I saw that like how powerful a form of expression writing is. It just allows you to really sit down in your thoughts, to completely reflect, and then to articulate exactly what you mean to say. And I love that about writing because it allows me to perfect what I do want to say so I can express myself the way that I want to and the way that I mean to. And so 826 Valencia really did allow me to share who I am with others without, I don't know, it releases a lot of stress from me, I think.
You gotten a lot of love on that answer. If you see the hearts coming up.
Yeah, thank you.
I mean, Clarabelle, have you really felt that 826 Valencia has pushed you or challenged you to share your perspective in new ways?
I think 826 has definitely helped, because it created a specific space for just writing. I feel like as a writer, consistency and practice is like the biggest thing ever. Because if you don't continue to write, you just kind of lose it, or like you just kind of be like, yeah, I forgot I could do that. But with 826, it just was like consistent, and it was also just like it was like the consistency also of the support of the
Mm,
people there, like Presidia and Kevi, just the people that were there at that program. Not only was it a bit challenging with like the prompts, which they weren't that strict with them because obviously with the writer and creativity, you can't just always stick to a prompt, but it just also gave you like the challenge of like, okay, you're gonna write today. Even if it's just like a few sentences, you're gonna do something. So that I think that definitely helped give me like a space for writing,
mm,
to just like practice that skill and also just to feel supportive, where I'm just like, I could just tell them, well, I don't know what to do, and they would like ask me questions to try to keep me going. They wouldn't be like, okay, I guess you won't write today. They would like try to encourage me. So that definitely helped a lot.
that's great. Um, Now you both were were you in elementary school during COVID or middle school during COVID, where the spaces for writing were probably different than they are today? And the idea of voice, people experience lots of different things around that. And I'm really thinking about this relationship between what you're saying, the confidence that you've gotten, the different formats that you've been able to share your voices and the different platforms. And I'm thinking, like, here you are, two very confident, even though Simone, you said you don't like to speak. I mean, you're amazingly confident young women sharing their voices with people all over the country right now. Um, how do you think writing, the relationship between writing and voice and your future, like, how have you put those ideas together in your life? Or maybe have you put that, like, how are you seeing writing um, in your future or the future of young people, of your generation? What are some thoughts about that? Maybe Simone, you want to start on that question?
Sure. I think that I'm just constantly hearing that writing is everywhere. It'll always be a part of your future, part of your career. And it truly is, because I think that media has made writing such an accessible platform where it's not often that you'll go to hear someone perform in person. But when someone writes, it's really just out in the world. It's out for people to see with social media and everything. And so I think that writing really is a way to get word out about anything. Um, Lots of activists use writing, lots
Mm,
of like any in any profession, writing is prominent. And so in terms of our futures, I think that if we do whatever career path you choose, when you do plan to make change for the future, writing is really a way to get your voice out, to get people to listen, and like people will see it and they'll react, and then just that reaction, it causes like communic or it leads to communication.
yeah,
And I don't know, I think that's a great way to start change, just writing.
yeah, yeah, I agree with you. Clarabelle, how about you? What sort of relationships have you thought about between writing and voice in your future, or the future of people in your generation?
Yeah, I definitely think, yeah, I agree with Simone on like the accessibility of it. I also think writing and voice are so like intertwined because writing, it's like, especially poetry, it's like from like the deepest like parts of you, like your emotions. It's like really putting yourself out there. And it's also a good way because it's also connection, you know? It's like someone could read it and truly be moved by your own words, even if that's not your intention. And I think, I don't know, I feel like it's definitely younger people are definitely more like inclined for change, especially in the probably future generations, hopefully. So I think definitely writing will be a big thing because it not only is it accessible now with like social media and all that, it's
Yeah,
also just a good outlet to express things that some people might not be able to through just talking one on one. Some people need time to think it through, or some people just truly need like some alone time and just to write it down, and then they just got it all down. So I definitely think it's going to be a big thing, especially with voice and in the future.
Yeah. No, I think the social media platforms in particular, even your video game, stuff. I mean, the idea of the narratives that you bring into gaming, right? That's a whole different, that's a whole different community of people that writing. Maybe some people don't think like, oh, gaming and video games is not. There's no writing, but actually, there's quite a bit of writing in there, and I think you both have shared, your connection with poetry as well. I'm thinking about what I know about 826 Valencia is in the creative writing field, and it sounds like it's grown quite a bit. But I'm really curious for you all to share a little bit more how creative writing has allowed you to have new connections with your community, with one another, with your school, with your families. What are those kinds of connections that you have been able to make with creative writing in general? And maybe Clarabelle, would you mind starting on that one?
Yeah, sure. Um, I feel like connections with creative writing, I feel like it's, well, the most obvious one, 826, Valencia, because there is other, just like physically, there's other locations throughout San Francisco. So it's just like when I see like a building, I'm just like, oh, that's another 826 Valencia place. But it's also just helped me because there really is just like a whole world of like authors and poets. And I feel like I've never, at least not yet, I've never really met like a very mean like author. Usually they're very like they're willing whenever I talk to them, they're like willing to hear me out or like teach me something. They're like
Mm.
so excited not only to talk about their work, but also like to see me interested in writing. They're always just like asking all these types of questions, and just very excited. But I definitely think, yeah. 826 has really connected me with all these things. And there's a bunch of programs and other people. It's like once you get into it, you're just kind of exposed to all this.
Mhm.
Like I got through this through 826. So it's just like a whole thing where once I kind of enter it a bit, it's just like a whole new world of like different authors and like poets. So it's really nice.
Could I ask you, do you have a favorite author or authors right now that you're reading or that you want to recommend to folks?
Oh, I'm not really the best person because I don't remember authors. I only
Okay, that's okay. I'm sure there's many writers in the audiences here. So how about Simona? How about you? What sort of connections around creative writing and storytelling have you made through your work with 826 Valencia?
I would say that in general, it's so like creative writing makes making connections so much easier because of like the universal themes in my writing or in your writing. For example, we've written about like losing where you are, losing who you are. We've written about in the KQDE challenge, like social and environmental difficulties or challenges. And so I think that it's just allowed me to open up conversation with others because whether you agree with someone on a topic or not, of course, everyone's going to have their personal interpretation. Creative writing allows you to start conversation. And so in writing my own work and sharing it and listening to the work of my peers, I think we've allowed to have just such fun discussions about
Mm.
what we write. And so yeah, mainly through 826 Valencia, but also in the different rooms that I've shared my work, I think I have been able to make connections there. And it's been really gratifying, I'd say.
That's wonderful. Now I'll put you on the spot as well. Do you have a favorite author that you want to share or a poet?
I don't know if I have a favorite in particular, but in my class at school, we read a book of Toni Morrison's, which I thought was just such a good read.
Mm.
Um, it was it was The Bluest Eye, and
Oh,
now I'm trying to get more into her work. So yeah,
yeah,
if you want to read, that's a
yeah.
really interesting author.
Yeah. I loved your face when you said, "Oh, that was a good read." I think everybody was like, "Oh, I know what that feels like." That's great. That's great. Thanks for sharing that. Um, along with 826 Valencia, and the work that you have with mentors and teachers there, I'd love for you both to share if you're, able to think about what um, folks that are educators or storytellers here today, or folks that are going to be listening to this, the recording, what what would you like, what kind of recommendations, what would you like educators to know about how writing and storytelling really support your way of understanding yourself? What can, if you were talking to an educator and you were saying, this is what I would really, or future educators, this is what has been really helpful for me to find my voice, what sort of advice would you give? And maybe Simona, if you wouldn't mind starting on this one.
Mm-hmm. I would start off by telling educators that writing is not always easy, and often it's not, because to really get out exactly what you want to say, I mean, that takes so much time, so much like thoughtful reflection. And so I think the best thing to support your students would be really to help them brainstorm, maybe just start off with an idea and let them know that like they can truly talk about anything that's on their mind. Encourage them to think about the emotions they're feeling, the visuals that they're having, and just start off writing whatever. And just make sure that they really know that it doesn't have to be perfect on your first try, because sometimes that might be something that blocks me. But when you know that like you have a free paper to write, just let them know that they can write whatever is there, and just support them in their own thought process, give them different ideas, and I'm sure they'll branch off of that.
That's great advice. Clarabelle, how about yourself? Any advice that you would like to give educators who are sitting across the room for you right now?
Yeah, I feel like my words are kind of almost the same. I don't know. I
Okay.
feel like it's just support is like the biggest thing ever, especially for someone who's kind of shy or new to writing, because it really is kind of like from the like it's hard to well, it's hard to write, but also if it's like something personal to you, it can make someone feel like a bit self-conscious or shy to like put it on and see someone else read it and have their own opinion on it. So definitely support, just I don't know, I feel like support can definitely work out with that. Um, and definitely I feel like it's pretty obvious, just like with everything of criticism, there's always like a pro to it, you know? But yeah, definitely just support, even if it's just subtle, just right at the start, so that like they know that even if they're not unsure, if they're not ready, that at least like their teacher will be like, oh, this was so good, or not even that, or just the teacher will be willing to hear them out, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Really wise words from both of you. Thank you. This might be, or maybe the one or two more questions that I'm going to have for Clarabelle and Simona. So I want to remind everybody to put their questions in Q&A, because we are going to have a few minutes at the end of this. So anything that I haven't covered that you would want to hear from both of them, please take a moment and put a question in the Q&A. But I think because we're here at the final session of NAMLE's conference. Media literacy, of course, we're all here because we believe in it. We know it's important. We feel its importance. We see its urgency. And we really believe that there are different skill sets of media literacy. And both of you have talked about both publishing. That was a really important part of 826 Valencia, as well as presenting your poetry in public, and another, important media literacy skill. But I'd really like to focus on publishing if I can, because I know 826, Clarabelle, you brought up earlier that you see yourself from a writer to an author is because you were published. And I'd like to hear a little bit more from both of you about how being published really, really impacted you. Or what does that mean to have your voice out there in public for others to read, whether it's creative writing or nonfiction or poetry, whatever it may be. Like, what is the power of publishing? And Simona, maybe if you wouldn't mind starting on that one. What is the power of publishing? Why is that so important as a media literacy skill, but also just in general?
Yeah. I want to start. I love that Clarabelle said that publishing made her from like a writer to an author, because publishing does give you just this new, like, it just gives you a new title, basically, like an author. And I think it's interesting because writing in general is a very fulfilling experience, like just getting your emotions out onto a piece of paper. But I think when you're published, it makes you realize that your writing is important, that others want to read your writing, others want to interact with it, respond to it. And it just shows that you're not writing for nothing. I mean, writing for yourself is also wonderful, but when you're writing and you become published, your writing like has its own action basically.
Have you, when you know that you're writing something to be published, does that change how you write?
I guess in my past few experiences being published with 826 Valencia, I don't think it's necessarily changed like how or what I write. I think I'm still like I do feel like I'm writing for myself, but I think I do feel different once it has been published. Like I
Okay.
feel so proud about the piece of work.
Yeah, yeah. I'm sure Clarabelle, there's some similarities to what Simona shared about publishing, but I'd love to dig a little bit more about the writer to author publishing, because I think everybody really appreciated you making that connection. But how has publishing really impacted you, and how do you see it as a really important skill for people to have?
Yeah, I mean, it really has impacted me because, like I said, I've been writing since I was like around 9. Just writing just like fantasy stuff just for fun. Um, and it's like it's always been kind of like for me, it was just like this silly little thing. And then I joined like 826 Valencia, and I was older obviously, so I was like taking it more seriously. But then I realized like it was, I don't know the exact moment. Maybe it was before or after I got published. I was like, this is like a real thing. This is like something I could like, I don't know, I could like try to find this and I'd find it somewhere out there. It's not just in my notes app or in Google Docs or whatever. It's like it's out there. And that just like, I don't know, not only did it make me feel important, it just made me realize, that it matters, like even if it was something, not even the contents of it really mattered to me, just as long as it was like important enough that someone would be willing to publish it. So I feel like it just like it did boost my confidence for sure, and it also made me realize like, do I want to do more than this? Do I want to publish more? Do I want to do like 10 new novels? I don't know. It really makes you like start like thinking, and like really makes you want to like look into the future. So I think it definitely like it helped me for sure with my confidence. Because I've like some friends I have that are also writers. I like read like what they have in their notes app, and I'm like, this is beautiful. Like, oh my God, why don't you like put into a competition? But they're like, oh no, it's just like something I do on the side. I don't really want to do it. And it's just like, no, you need to put yourself out there. It's like you don't realize it, but you're actually like your potential is like so great. But definitely publishing made me realize that for sure.
Yeah, it's a risk. You're being vulnerable when you publish, right? You are sharing a part of yourself to the public, and sometimes that takes time, but you've all, and if you see in the chat how many people are appreciating your words of, how important support is, how important community is, how important those things are. And not everybody has that, but it's very clear that 826 Valencia has given that. But it sounds like there's a community of writers that you have built around that give you that support. But people need both of you. We want Clarabelles and Simonas everywhere to sort of encourage people to be writers and to publish. And so thank you for sharing that. And I'm gonna look to the questions now, if I may, and I'll encourage other people. But is there anything before I go to our community's questions that I didn't ask either of you that you want to share real quick before we go on to other people's questions? Anything either of you want to bring up?
All right.
No, just keep going. Okay, great. All right. So Michelle asks us, she mentions a lot of her undergraduate students do a lot of reflective writing, and she's always torn with how much their grammar should matter. This may be a really basic question for both of you, but do you think grammar matters anymore, and should it? And what do you think, and I know you can't speak for everybody in your generation, but just what do you think about the need for grammar in your reflective writing?
Okay, I can start us off, but I think that, well, yeah, I can't speak for my whole generation, but I do know that often, at least I, as a as someone in Gen Z, I hear often that like texting, the way we write when we text is starting to like ruin our writing. And I don't know, maybe that's true, but also I've heard somewhere, I think it was a teacher of mine that told me about this, how texting doesn't really ruin your writing, but it should be a way to enhance it, only because texting is like a different type of vernacular. And so it just teaches you to switch between different forms of writing. So I think that, I mean, grammar may be getting poorer only because, or students' grammar may be becoming poorer because of their like indifference towards it. But I think that grammar is still significant in the sense that it makes your writing clearer. However, when you're writing, especially in a first draft, I don't think it's a priority. So yes, grammar, like we should still be like on top of it, but there are other things to focus on first. Like at least you can write.
Clarabelle, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with a big portion of that. Yeah, I feel like definitely for first draft or even second, I don't know. Grammar is definitely a little lower on the list, but it's definitely still important, I think, just for understanding. But I feel like it depends on how you write because like maybe for poetry or even for dialogue, it can sometimes grammar can sometimes just be like if I make this grammatically correct, it actually ruins the whole thing. Because in some poetry, it's like it's meant to not make grammatical sense, if that makes sense. I don't know. It's meant to like flow differently. And also for dialogue and like books, it's not meant to be because we don't talk perfectly normal. So I think there's definitely some exceptions to the rule, but I feel like grammar for like people who, when they're barely starting to write, like pay so much attention to it, I feel like it kind of holds them back from like their creativity. It makes them just like go back and they're still on like the first half, they're still on the first sentence. Sometimes you just got to go and just like reread it later, you know?
Yeah. I know we could have a whole session on grammar, but thanks for taking that question on. Patrick has an interesting question as well. First, he wants to appreciate what an inspiration you both were as writers and young advocates. So thank you. But I know you might not have thought of this, but do you have any sense of where you might be in 5 or 10 years for your own future? Maybe Clarabelle, you want to start? Do you have aspirations, whether it's writing or not, but anything that you'd like to share?
I mean, that's a big, I mean, maybe that's not too big in the future, but it feels like a big number of
I
years.
know.
I mean, I definitely do have goals. I definitely do. I know I'm already, and I already published work, but I definitely want to publish some of my own like chapter, like novels. That's definitely one of my bigger goals. Um, yeah, I don't know, just I don't know, go to college. It's definitely like very
That's a good
much
goal.
so. I'm just trying to get through. I'm just doing it. But yeah, that's for me. That's my goals for now.
You imagine keeping writing going in your life, though, no matter whether it's formally or informally.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I really want to publish my novels. That's for sure.
That's great. Simona, how about yourself? 5, 10 years, where do you see yourself?
Well, okay, I'll be starting as an undergraduate student now. So I guess in 5 to 10 years, I think I'd be well on my way towards my like career aspirations. It's not directly related to writing, but I hope to be a civil rights lawyer. And so even though I'm not writing as I would be like with 826 Valencia, I think that like writing, reading, analysis, interpretation, it's still all part of the field. So yeah.
Yes, yes. And being able to share, your
Yeah.
arguments, definitely. So I can see it. I see it. I see it both in your futures. I'm going to see your books, Clarabelle, and I'm going to definitely see you as a strong civil rights, Simona. So we have one more question from the community, and then we're going to end before we transition back to NAMLE with both Simona and Clarabelle sharing some of their writing as a special treat for us. So with our last question here from Jenna, she asked, do you feel that you're a better or stronger reader given all the writing you do? And she's asking this as a parallel with media literacy production. So do you think you're a stronger reader given all the writing that you've done, and what's the parallel with media literacy in that relationship between reading and writing? And who would like to start? I'll let either of you begin.
Just a quick definition of the media literacy thing again. It's like fuzzy, but
Well, I think she's asking, and I can't, I don't know if Jen, if you want to take yourself off mute here, but maybe let's just start with the first part of the question. Do you feel that you're a better or stronger reader given all the writing that you do?
well, I'll just start quickly. I feel like I should definitely read more. I'm guilty of that as a writer. It's like I should definitely read more of other people's work to learn from it, because I do agree it helps. But I think it really depends, because I do find myself after like rereading some of my own work and then going to a book, I'm like accidentally like editing the book, and I'm like, wait, this isn't my own writing. I can't just like be like, oh, I should delete that sentence, but it's not even mine. But I think, I don't know, I think I'm definitely a bit more consciously aware. I think I know some things when I'm reading. I'm sometimes thinking of like the author. I'm like, oh, they wrote that there to like to reference this other thing. Like I'm thinking a bit more in their mind. But I feel like, I don't know, I think I'm a little better, but I wouldn't say like by a lot, in my
Okay. Well, in some ways, you just answered the question with the media literacy analysis, is that you were analyzing writing because you are a writer and because you are a reader, you have the skills to analyze others. So that sort of answers that second part of that question. So Simona, what about yourself? Are you a stronger reader because of all the writing that you do and its relationship to media analysis?
I completely agree that I need to read more. So there's one thing, but I think that writing has helped me almost sharpen my critical thinking skills. And so when I'm reading, I agree that there are more things that I might catch. I mean, it also like it has to do with practice in class, but yeah, I think writing, like just using those devices that we learn when we're writing helps us understand them better when we're reading it.
Wonderful. Thank you. Well, thank you all for those really insightful questions. And I'm really now excited to hear, because we have heard so much of their wisdom and their insights from the questions, and you're getting a lot of love from the community here. But we have a special treat with you sharing your writing, and I'm not sure, and I'm hoping that one of you can at least introduce the framework in which this writing was created or produced through 826 Valencia, but if not, that's okay. You can just share the writing, but I have a feeling it was with the KQED challenge. Is that right? Both of these pieces that you're going to share? Is that right? Or are they
I'll
different?
be sharing another piece.
We'll be sharing another. Clarabelle's the KQED challenge
Yeah.
one. So we'll start with Clarabelle reading something from that, and maybe if you want to introduce it a little bit, that would be great.
Yeah, this was actually at the very start of when I joined the program. And I'm looking at it now, I'm like, wow, I've come a long way. And not saying it's terrible, but I'm just like, wow, I've come a long way since the start of 826. But yeah, this was towards the start of when I joined 826 Valencia. We had the KQD challenge where we had to write basically almost an essay of a problem that we'd like to change or improve in our world. And I did the kind of video games one, and it's just like 5 sentences of it. Yeah, I'll just read it out loud right here. Sorry, let me just grab it. Okay. Video games where you can personalize your character have a lock of hair options for Black people. Recent video games have had better and more diverse options, but the change should have happened a long time ago. For a while, there has only been one or two Black hairstyles to customize your character. Kids or even older people who play video games have complained of this and do notice it. The feeling of not being able to customize your character to look like you can make people feel like they don't belong or have to settle for customizations that just aren't right or are way off. This should have definitely changed a long time ago. And although it seems silly because it's just a video game, it can definitely have a big effect in the long run.
Yes, thank you. Simona, you want to close us off here?
Sure. So I'll be sharing an excerpt from my poem Seeking Home. Let's see, the prompt was, I think it was just a free verse poem. starting off with I am lost and ending with I am home. And so I'll just read the first bit. I am lost. Or am I home? What does home even look like? Is home someplace one is born with, or must it be found? I see a community of people appearing so jovial with one another. At times, conflict arises, but collaboration always triumphs. This is a home, but is it my home? I look like one of them. They tell me I am one of them. And yet a gnawing feeling remains that I will always be an outsider. I run away in search of this so-called home. Slow down, you crazy child, they tell me, but I cannot, will not, until I'm sure I have found home. That's
Thank you. I can't think of a more meaningful way to wrap up the NAMLE conference than the voices of young people like yourselves sharing the power of writing, the power of voice. So thank you both for this wonderful conversation. And I'm going to turn it back now to Danelle. Thank you so much, Clarabelle and Simona, for bringing yourselves to this community. And thank you also, Presidia, for all the work that you do to support these young people. And thank you, namely, for bringing 826 Valencia to this community. So take it away, Danelle.
Yes, thank you all so much for this incredible conversation. I think I speak for many of us when I say that you give us all hope at a time that can oftentimes feel quite hopeless. So I think the agency of the work is beyond inspiring. And I know many of us feel every time we see these sessions with youth who are really using their voice that, the future is in good hands if they are the ones who are leading the way.